60 Minutes Rewind.
On Wednesday, Vice President Joe Biden stepped back from the 2016 presidential campaign. Standing in the White House Rose Garden, flanked by his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, and President Obama, the vice president seemed reluctant, even regretful, as he passed up a third try for the presidency.
Unfortunately, I believe we're out of time, the time necessary to mount a winning campaign for the nomination. But while I will not be a candidate, I will not be silent.
And he certainly wasn't Saturday afternoon when we joined the vice president and Dr. Biden at their official residence on the grounds of the Naval Observatory for his first television interview since the announcement.
It's been a big week. How are you feeling about this decision?
Good. It's the right decision for the family. It's the right decision for us.
Is it that you think you couldn't win, or that you didn't want to run?
I couldn't win. I'll be very blunt. If I thought we could have put together the campaign that our supporters deserved and our contributors deserved, I would have gone ahead and done it.
But why did it take you to Tuesday to figure that out, to Tuesday night?
Because it took that long for us to decide as a family. Look, dealing with the loss of Bo, any parent listening who's lost a child knows that you can't, it doesn't follow schedules of primaries and caucuses and contributors and the like. It just, and everybody grieves at a different pace.
And we had such hope that, that he was going to live. And so I think it really wasn't until the day he died that we gave, well, I don't think we ever gave up hope.
The Bidens lost their son, Bo, in May at age 46 to brain cancer. The vice president told us that during his illness and while grieving, he put his plans to run for president on hold.
What was the single most important thing in deciding not to run?
I've said from the beginning that I don't know whether our ability to deal with the loss of Bo would reach a point where we could do that before time ran out. And there was nothing we could control.
Were you disappointed or were you relieved?
No, I think I was disappointed. I mean, I thought Joe would be a great president. And, I've seen in the 40 years we've been together, I've seen, the strength of his character, his optimism, his hope.
I'm glad we're doing this interview. I'd like to Jill Stahl.
So I believed he would have been the best president.
I mean, how much did you struggle with this, about whether to run or not?
What I struggled with was whether or not we could emotionally, I could, speak for me, I could emotionally handle this in a way that when I thought of Bo, it wasn't a problem. For example, at one point, late summer, I thought, well, I think we can do this. And I'll never forget my little granddaughter. We're down by the swimming pool. Mom says, time for dinner, everybody. And everybody goes up, and she's lying between my legs, their head on my shoulder, my chest, and turns around and puts her arms around me and starts sobbing. She says, Pop, I see Daddy all the time. I see Daddy all the time. Pop, you smell like Daddy. You're not going to leave me, are you, Pop? Well, when that happens, you go, I don't know, man. How can, and so there are those kinds of ups and downs. But by the time now, we were home last weekend, and every weekend we can get, and we went to her. She's a great little cross country. Yeah. She's only 11 years old. Track meet. And she runs and she finishes, and I give her a big hug. She said, Daddy would be happy, wouldn't he? Yeah. So it's a total, it just takes time, and until you get there, it's not an appropriate thing to throw your, and by the way, you can't run for president unless you throw your entire being into it.
How often did the two of you talk about this decision? Every night?
Well, we just looked at each other half the time. Like, yeah. I'd get up in the morning, some mornings, and I'd say, Jill, I think because I have to admit to you, what's driving us crazy is you guys, we love you, but, serious press people would say, well, we have on good authority from a very close friend of Joe Biden's that he's going to announce tomorrow. or we have a good authority that he's not going to run, or and that used to drive me crazy. And so part of it was I'd get up some mornings and say, let's just end this thing, man. We don't have time I don't want to go keep getting buffeted like this. And so some mornings we'd say, like I remember about a month ago, we're on the porch at home, and I said, maybe we should just, I don't know if we're going to get there in time. Maybe we should just say we're not going. And Jill said, but what about the Supreme Court?
What about education? What about community colleges? I felt like everything we had worked so hard for in this administration, could just all change.
Now that's because she's prejudiced. She thinks that I have the best chance of winning a general election. So that's.
But that's really interesting to hear that you were really pushing him to go forward.
Oh yeah, sure.
Will you ever run for political office again?
No. I can do so much more. I believe, I hope I leave office as a respected figure who can convene people and bring people together. And I just think the president and I talked about what we do together, what we each want to do out of office.
You said something in the Rose Garden. You said, if I could be anything, I would want to be the president that ended cancer.
It's true. It's personal. I acknowledge, but cancer affects every single family. And one of the great advantages and advantage I had is being vice president. I had access to the finest people in the world. And I am confident if we make the decision John Kennedy made of going to the moon, and we said we are going to cure cancer, within the next several years, we can do that. That's how close it is.
After we interviewed the Bidens together, Jill Biden stepped out, and we continued our conversation with the vice president.
Believe me, I'm sure she's happy to.
Thank you. There was a lot you had to weigh in this run for president. I know you talked to your son, Beau, about running for president. What did he want you to do?
The first thing I'd like to do, and you're being very polite the way you're asking me the question, because some people have written that, Beau on his deathbed said, Dad, you've got to run. And there was this sort of Hollywood moment that, nothing like that ever happened. Beau, from the time he was in his 30s, or actually his late 20s, was he and Hunter, my two most reliable advisors. And Beau all along thought that I should run and I could win. But there was not what is sort of made out as kind of this Hollywood-esque thing that at the last minute, Beau grabbed my hand and said, Dad, you've got to run, like win one for the Gipper. There wasn't anything like that.
The story will continue after this.
I want to show you a photo of President Obama and you. This is in the Oval Office. This is right before you went out to the Rose Garden and told everybody that you weren't running for president. What advice did the president give you?
Well, I called the president early in the morning. He was in the gym working out. And he took my call, and I said, Mr. President, I said, we've decided. I'm not going to run. And he knew how close it was, what was going on. And I said, I'm going to go out and announce it this morning or early afternoon. He said, Joe, I'd be proud to stand with you.
But did the president want you to run?
The president wanted me to do what I thought was best.
But that speech in the Rose Garden sounded a little bit like a campaign platform. Did you have a speech written for whether you were going to run or whether you weren't going to run? Because part of the speech sounded like, I'll be ready, I've got a plan if you need me at some point.
Well, the truth is there's some truth to that because what I wanted to make clear.
But are you leaving the door open if something happens?
No. I was making the case that I do want to influence the Democratic Party. I want to make no bones about that. I don't want the party walking away from what Barack and I did.
You said, I will not be silent.
I will not be silent. And I went on to, in fact, say, and I want, to the extent I can, influence the direction of the Democratic Party and the country.
Well, let me ask you about that, because you didn't mention Hillary Clinton at all during your speech, but you sure did seem to be referring to her. You said, I don't think we should look at Republicans as our enemies. Was that a reference to the comment she made?
Hillary. That was a reference to Washington, all of Washington.
But she called Republicans enemies in the debate.
Well, I think she was being more humorous than she was direct about that.
But she said that in the debate. She was asked, which enemy are you most proud of? And she said the Iranians, and then she also mentioned the Republicans.
Well, she was smiling when she said the Republicans, and I don't take it that that's her view. But I do know it's the view of many people. Like, for example, when I made this statement, there were 2 big articles read and said, why is Biden so naive? These people are our enemy. From serious people. They're not my enemy. How in God's name can we govern this country if we view the opposition as an enemy?
Did you watch the Democratic debate? Did you watch Hillary Clinton? Did you think she's unbeatable?
No, I didn't think that. What I thought was she did a great job. And I thought Bernie did a great job. Look, I've debated Hillary 13 times in national presidential debates. I know Hillary. I know her debating skills. I know mine. I have never had any doubt about her intellect or her capacity to debate, and I thought she comported herself really well.
But you wouldn't have considered running for president unless you thought or had some doubts about Hillary Clinton.
Not at all. That has nothing to do with it. I've said from the beginning, look, I like Hillary. Hillary and I get along together. The only reason to run is because I still think I could do a better job than anybody else could do. That's the reason to run. I wouldn't run against Hillary.
But you also said in the Rose Garden that Democrats should run on the record.
That's right.
The president's record.
I believe that.
Do you think Hillary's running on that or something else?
Well, she'll run on part of it or not. She's already made a decision on 2 important things. It doesn't mean she won't be a great president.
So when the New York Times reported this past week that there's real tension between you and Hillary Clinton, that the mere mention of her name makes you fume, according to some advisors.
Well, let me tell you something. This must be the same guys who knew I was going to run, because that's never been the case. Go back and find anybody who says for the 4 years we worked together, Hillary and I weren't friends.
What do you think of Donald Trump?
The one thing I'm disappointed in Donald Trump. I know what a showman and all that he is, but I really don't think it's healthy, and I hope he reconsiders this sort of attack on all immigrants. I think that is beneath the country. I don't think it's where the American people are, and I hope he really doesn't believe it.
You have 15 months left in office.
I do.
What 1 or 2 things do you think you can get done?
Well, I think we can get a number of things done. One, I think we can really begin to nail down this commitment to work on cancer and head toward a moonshot. The President and I have already talked about that. Number 2, I think we can make some real progress, particularly with Paul Ryan, who is a good guy, on working toward an accommodation on the budget and on keeping the government open.
This White House has not been able to get much done with this Congress. Do you think Speaker Ryan will change things?
Yes. This is a decent guy, and he knows you cannot function. This government can't function without reaching some consensus, and he wants to do that.
I know you often give advice to people, and one of the things you say is you're either on your way up or you're on your way down. Which one are you?
I think I'm still moving up. I think we got a lot to do.